Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a very special guest. Before I introduce you or tell you who she is, let me give you a little bit of her background. Shametria's extraordinary story of transforming her life from being trafficked in escaping extreme poverty is now being a founder, life coach, a real estate investor, is the inspiration behind her bold mission to teach others that it is possible to do the same. Today, fans worldwide revere Shametria for her mastery of teaching people how to accomplish unfathomable goals and tap into their limitless potential. Shametria has spoken on stages like the Zurich Classic, Dress for Success Worldwide Conferences, and Grant Cardone 10X Growth Conference, just to name a few. Shametria has committed her life to providing women that have been trafficked in with homes to grace and unleashing people to speak all around the world. Wow, Shametria Gonzales, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Good. I'm super excited to have you here, and definitely, what of inspiration and not only that, just listening to that and reading that, the things you've gone through, and again, to be able to now be a founder, a life coach, real estate investor, and doing a lot of different things really speaks a lot of volume. So, why don't you tell me by telling me a little bit about your upbringing? Where are you originally from, and how was that for you?
Yeah, so I tell everybody when I start, I'm like, I'm just a small town girl who had a really big dream. So I
Yeah.
was born in Eagle Lake, Texas, which is like right outside of Houston, really small country town, Texas girl. And I was born to two parents, amazing, beautiful people, but they had sickness of drugs. So I was born with crack in my system. And, from there, like they really tried. I stayed with my dad for a little while, stayed with my mom for a little while. I stayed with aunts, uncles, cousins, shelters, foster care. Like nothing ever stuck for me. So that's why even now as a speaker, I'm like, yeah, book me to Maui. Yeah, I'll go to the tent. You need me to move to Arizona 3 months? I got you. Like it set me up to be able to serve God's people and go when I need to go and not be complacent to just one thing, right? So I think that my upbringing is actually why I am such a great speaker and why I'm always so on the go and very social and always able to fit in and adapt because that's how I grew up. But going into there, everyone wants to know, like, well, what happened? So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, at 15 years old, you can emancipate yourself in the state of Texas. That means you can go to
Mm.
court and say, hey, I want to be legally grown. I want to sign myself to school. I want to do my own thing. That's what I did. So I'm like, look, they're like, well, you need to support yourself. So I went to Sonic Drive-In, got a job. I was a student athlete. So, I kind of went back and forth. School where I worked was right across the street from my school. So basically 15 years old and student athlete, emancipated myself, kind of overcame all of this. I had been raped before, so it was a huge deal and everybody knew about it. So I really kind of shut down and it was just me. I like overcome all that. I thought I was good. And
Mm.
so I'm working every day, going to school, and these women come to me and they're like, hey, how much money do you make? And I was like, well, I make like $100 a day. I'm telling them proud of myself, right?
Yeah.
So these women were recruiters. And so a lot of people don't understand. They think that traffickers are men. Traffickers operate through women. And I don't think that there'd be no trafficking without women. And
Yeah.
so I'm not trying to knock women, but what I'm saying is once you get into the mind of a woman, mostly it's a woman that could do that easier, especially with a young girl who doesn't have her mother, doesn't have her father. So they came to me, they were like, how much money you make? I told them. They said, okay, well, look, this was over months too. So 15, these girls pull up. I think it was like a Phantom. I'd never seen a Phantom. This is like little low scale. This was the real deal. So, they were like, look, come with us. You need family. You can't be out here by yourself. We got you. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm legally grown anyways. So I go with them. And I'm there for a while. And at first it started off like, look, just come to these things and do like waitressing at private poker tournaments. Then they were like, well, look, now we have these organized massage parties. And then they were like, well, okay, look, you're supposed to make $2,500 a day. This is not enough. Like, we're pulling your weight, which wasn't true. But little by little by little, now I'm a year and a half in this, like my sisters, they're like, okay, look, we got this new thing, it'll make you forget everything. So there's a private doctor, he's gonna be coming, he's gonna do it for you. They start, giving us these shots. After that was go to sleep, wake up, do thing, go back to sleep, wake up. So I started forgetting things. I left going to school. So nobody was worried about me. So, that's how it's that easy to just gradually get into that life. You don't just go from boom, boom. It's not like the movies and Taken or so I'm like, maybe I got to write a movie and tell y'all how this really works so y'all won't be blind to it. Right. But so basically that happened over and over and over. So one day, you're not supposed to talk. If you say something, you get hurt, they'll hurt people next to you. I'm sorry, my hair is like in my mouth. So I think they set up a system where women love each other. We formed a sisterhood. And if you do something wrong, the other person got in trouble for you. So it was like this weird mindset of wow. Complexities that made you feel like you were, less than. And if you did something, then you would hurt the next person. So now you're even worse. So the value came from how much money you made for the team. Like, this is how they talk to us. Now I know. But, so these were the things that I was dealing with. So this pastor had been undercover coming and kind of talking to me. I didn't know. Now, if I would have known, I would have told. He probably would have got killed. Like, just being honest. So, my friend had overdosed. Like, she was 14. Her name was Cinnabons. So she was doing her thing and, she overdosed. She wouldn't wake up. So I called, I'm like, look, Cinnabon's not waking up. Like, I don't know what to do. They're like, oh, we got her. The doctor's going to take care of it. I never saw her again. So a couple weeks went by. Now I'm getting depressed. Like, I'm cool with me. At the time I was 17. So this, like, I just thought that would be my life the rest of my life. I was like, I didn't care about myself, so it didn't matter. But I loved that little girl, and she looked just like me. So, long story short, I talked to the pastor, told him what happened. He was with the FBI. So that, because it was murder versus just women being trafficked or women doing our thing, no one ever talks. They really didn't have, they knew, but they needed concrete evidence and a search warrant. So that was their way.
That was more than enough.
That was more than enough. So basically they came in like a week later, guns, put everybody on the ground. Everybody there got a charge for prostitution except me.
Is that because you were, you were emancipated, but you were also underage?
I was underage, yes. Yeah. But on top of that, the young girls, of course, didn't get it. But anybody who was a woman who was over the age of 18 in the state of Texas, they got prostitution charges. Some of them went to jail because they wouldn't talk, wouldn't go. Like, it was bad. And I, for a long time, thought it was my fault because, of course, everything came out. I went with the pastor. I went with his church. He owned a school. He let me graduate, finished my GED, SAT, ACTs. I played sports, so I got myself back physical because I got really skinny. So I worked myself back up, got myself back in shape. There's something called red shirt, which means you could go to college, but you don't play, but you still get a scholarship. So red shirt at the first year. Then I went into working and went in the next 4 years, graduated with a master's in business administration.
Nice.
I had a team around me. So it went from one team to another team. So it's all about your team. What team are you on, right? You're only as strong as your weakest link. So I went to college, and as I left there, I was really dark. Like it was really, all I did was I played volleyball in the summer, in the fall, and basketball in the spring. So I was a collegiate athlete. So as long as I was doing something, I was busy, I was good.
Mhm.
Summertime was hard for me.
Yeah.
So I start like the summertime, I got real depressed. I tried to commit suicide. Like it was, you don't just get out and now you're out and you change your life.
And you're good, right? I mean, there is definitely a whole process, right? So let
Yeah.
me ask you this: like, the obviously the you get emancipated at the age of 15. You've already gone through a lot of stuff, as you mentioned, sexually abuse and all these different things. The reason you wanted to emancipate yourself, was it because, again, you felt like, well, my parents are doing their own thing, kind of thing. I've been from one place to another. I might just do my own stuff and be my own person. Because obviously, I'm sure a lot of people that might be listening to this might be, at one point saying, hey, I want that, I want to do that, I want to just maybe, kids want to grow up super
Oh
fast, right?
yeah, yeah. Oh no. Ooh, kids, stay a child while you could be a child.
You're
I
right.
didn't have my childhood. I didn't have teens. I didn't have stay a baby and then become a young adult, and then a young adult to a young teen, and then a young teen, or I might say it backwards, but please,
Right.
please, please listen to me. The one mistake that I feel like I made in my life was taking myself away from having people that checked in on me, tried to protect me. It don't matter if they was broke. It don't matter if they were a little cray cray.
Yeah.
Please, please, if you have people in your life that love you, you have safe adult, stay.
Yeah.
I emancipated myself because I was getting beat on. I had been sexually assaulted. The people that it wasn't one family that I was with. I was tossed around from place to place to place. And also, as a young girl who was born with crack, dyslexic, hyperactive, I got checked from the state. So I actually was able to take care of myself versus the people I was with were taking my check and using it for drug.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's when I talk about stuff like this. I really want to thank you for asking for that context and that background. I
Yeah.
felt like I had no other choice. I did it to protect myself. And in the midst of that, I didn't go get a safe adult. I didn't have people around me. I isolated myself. And that is why they were able to come and get me and be predatory on me.
Right. Yeah. No, that's huge. I mean, I definitely, again, you didn't have that option, and if you have that option, you definitely have to just go with the process, like go with the age process, and be able to take all of that in. It's interesting. I had somebody else on my show a couple of months back, or a couple of weeks back, and one of the things that they were telling me is that they grew up in a foster home, homes, multiple homes for that matter. And to me, it's amazing. Again, sometimes we feel like trafficking or uh, sexual abuse, all these things happen in other countries, and really it's happening here in our own backyard. And this person was telling me how even going from one foster home to another foster home, those people, unfortunately, were also sexually abusing them,
Yeah,
mentally and physically. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wait, how is this taking place? How can this be taking place where, again, these people they're supposed to be going through a system to support and help those that need it, and yet they're not, right? And
yeah,
so it's amazing to see that. And obviously, yourself going through something very similar. So now, obviously, when it came down to, and I think a lot of people go through that, is when it came down to you're making your own money, you're doing this females come, and it's interesting that they're females, and I can see why, because there's that, as we call it now in businesses, that like and known and trust factor, right? You kind of
yes,
like them, you know them, you feel like more comfortable than
yeah,
maybe a man approaching you, especially if you're a female, right? Either way, man or female, when you have a female approaching you, you feel like, okay, I can trust this person, I like them, they seem nice.
yeah,
And part of that too, I would say that when you're in your 14, 15, 16, what is one thing that we people are looking for? They're looking for that community, they're looking for that unity, for that kind of aspect, right? So
yeah,
that's probably one of the things where, you're drawn to them and say, you know what, yeah, I mean, I'm here by myself, and I kind of miss having that family. Maybe I find it here, kind of thing,
yeah,
right? And then they take advantage of you,
yes. So
which is crazy.
there's this like metaphor. It says that if you put a frog in water and it's hot, it jumps out. But if
Mm,
you put it in cold water and slowly turn the temperature up, it'll stay there the whole time and die. And I think that's what happens with young girls that are in this system and that are in this space.
right. Wow, no, that's crazy. So you finally came out, and obviously, again, you went to school, and as you talked about it, it's not something that you can just kind of turn off. It's like, all right, I have a new life, right? It's a process. Talk to me about that process, because I know that's huge. There's a lot of mental process. There's a lot of things you got to go through. Possibly you went through therapy. Some people do, some people don't. I don't know, right? Tell me about that process, because I think that healing process to me is huge. As a matter of fact, I'm also an author, and the next book that I have coming up is You Can Overcome Anything with Forgiveness, right? And so at the end of the day, is being able to forgive yourself, not
Yeah,
for those people, is really to be good with yourself, content with yourself, to be able to say, you know what, I'm good. So talk
yeah.
to me about that process, that healing process.
Man, thank you for asking. No one, I don't think anyone's ever asked me about that journey, but
Yeah.
so my healing process is still going on today, right?
Mm,
So one thing I want people to know is that healing is a journey, and just enjoy the moments of the journey, because sometimes you can go back to a thought and it can bring you all the way back. It's called traumatized, right? So when I got out, first thing that I did was I went to the doctor. I physically got myself healed. As a young woman who had been in a space of dealing with multiple men, the reason I'm so grateful is because I got out with nothing that was not curable.
mm.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So, just being very transparent, I got, yeah, things were wrong, but it wasn't AIDS. It wasn't anything that wasn't curable. And I was safe and clean, and I was able to cleanse my body. The second thing was I had to change my mindset. So I started listening to a lady named Lisa Nicholas,
Hmm.
and she has Motivating the Masses. That's actually the first woman that brought me on a stage with over 10,000 people, taught me everything I know, showed me. Everybody's like, oh, you went to Grant Cardone 10X. I'm like, it started with Lisa. I love you, Grant.
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
started with Lisa Nichols. So,
yeah.
I started with Lisa Nicholas, and I went to a conference. Now, we get refund checks in school. Every refund check I got, I was listening to YouTube, and so I was hearing different voices, right? So this guy said, if you want to be rich and you want to be, powerful, and you want to be better and successful, go to conferences. His name was Ty Lopez. I was the first
Mhm.
person. It was just like a free YouTube thing. He said it changed my life.
Yeah.
I used my check, went to conference. She said, everybody close your eyes. It's like 10,000 people. I'm sitting like in maybe the back. She was like, there's somebody here who's struggling with love. It's a woman. She's been hurt and abused. And I need everybody to close your eyes, because if your eyes are open, she's not going to raise her hand. It was all those people. I didn't even raise my hand. I did this. And she said, I'm always dressed. I love dressing nice.
Yeah.
Even if it might be from Shein, $20 outfit, but
Yeah.
I had on this checker suit with red jewelry. And she said, the lady with the checker suit with the pretty jewelry. And I was like,
Oh.
oh. So I go on stage, and she was like, what's your affirmation? Because she was telling us about affirmation. I said, my affirmation is that I will not let a man abuse me ever again or use me. She said, I didn't ask you for a reminder. I asked you, what's your affirmation? What are you affirming? She said, I'm going to tell you what you say in the mirror every day when you look at yourself. Say, I am worthy of a safe, healthy, and wealthy relationship. I am worthy. And I say that I said that this morning. I am worthy of a safe, healthy, wealthy relationship. And I know that each one of those broken down is a part of things that I had to break through. When you break it down, you could break through it. So that was the first part. I went to conferences, started listening to podcasts, listening to books. The second part is there's something called erase and replace, meaning you can't just erase, you got to replace, because we're operating out of habit. At the time, I didn't know that. I've learned this now. I went from having a team and a group of women around me to having a team and a group of women around me.
Mm-hmm.
But it went from having a team of women that were being trafficked and drugs and doing and drinking and into this world to a group of women from Russia, Syria, China, Libya. I played with an international team at a historically Black college, but my coach said, y'all already went to all Black schools growing up. Here, I'm going to give y'all something y'all never knew, which is a taste of the world. So she got women from all around the world to come play with us. So I played volleyball with these people that had stories like mine, but didn't look like me, didn't talk like me, didn't walk like me. And they worked really hard. And they weren't worried about nothing because they were here on a visa. A passport is the most valuable document in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gets you access. So they didn't have that. They had something called a visa. So the visa, U visa, T visa, that was work in school. That means if they don't play or pass, they go home. And it's a dishonor to their family. So they cared about family. So like I learned all of this is a part of the healing journey, guys. That's what I want you to know. So erase and replace, books, podcasts, mentorship, having a woman like Lisa Nicholas's, who I'm doing what she do now.
Yeah.
I'm helping
Yeah.
women around the world. I'm changing lives. But I didn't start like that. It started from me learning from somebody who was doing that. And that was 7 years ago. And
Right.
I'm just getting my breakthrough to teach into. So it wasn't like I went and I'm like, oh, now I could teach. No, I healed. And then physically, from the spiritual side, I did meditation. I do yoga. I do something called ear acupuncture. They stick needles in your ear, but it brings the blood flow down so you can calm and just, pacify your thoughts. And I still do these things till this day. And then I found out what my purpose was. And it was whatever you make it out of qualifies you to help others that are still going through it. So when I was walking in my purpose, I was able to attach that to everything I did. And then I was pulling from abundance and from source. I was pulling from this energy, and that's what people feel when they see me. They're like, "Oh, I love your energy." I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm walking in that power. I got this. I mean that from like experience. I don't just say that to be cute on stage.
Yeah.
I'm talking from my soul.
Yeah, no, I love that. And talking about Lisa, there's one thing I listen to her a lot too, and I know her story too. And I
Yeah,
remember I might be not saying this quite the way it is. I remember one time she was talking about she woke up and looked at herself in the mirror and say, "Lisa, I love you, I like you," right? And she was talking about that, and I think that's critical because a lot of people don't do that. They don't say that to themselves. And she said, you know, if you like me on Facebook or Instagram, your like is extra because I like myself first or
yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, that's true. At the end of the day, it's like you gotta like yourself first, and you gotta look at yourself at the mirror and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I like myself. And so I love everything you mentioned. And so obviously, like as you mentioned, it is still an ongoing process, right? Which I
Yeah,
think is huge. I
yeah,
think that in anything that we do in life, the minute that we start learning, we stop growing, which means that we start dying. And so the
yes,
fact that you're going through that's huge. And you mentioned that about 7 years ago is when you kind of started doing this. So at
yeah,
which point, like, obviously you went to school, you did all these different things. At which point did you say, I want to go take this path? I mean, you were going through your healing process. When did you discover that this is your calling, this is where you got to be? Uh and the second thing I want to say to that is, I feel like that there's from pain a purpose is born, right? And I'm
yeah,
not saying that what took place with you was good, by no means, except that pain point has now given you a bigger purpose in life to be able to
yes.
impact more lives, right? So
Man, that's
where did
beautiful.
that come about?
If you look, so it comes from, I'm a reverse engineer it. So I was going after college, I went to become a community organizer. I worked for the Louisiana Foundation Against Sexual Assault. So I still was
Wow.
learning, but I was using my degree to be in those rooms to be able. Then I went in politics and I was running for city council. And then I went, so it's all these steps and levels of little by little. I was just a very highly trained, paid woman that I am right now. So I learned from politicians how to create laws. We changed 13 laws around domestic violence and sexual assault in Louisiana and Atlanta, right? And now I'm focusing on Texas. I'm doing a documentary right now with a call to action, but I just can't say too much about it. But it's
Mm.
all of these little bitty things that are making me, I didn't ask for this. I just did the work, and the work kind of worked. And it's like, work, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So there's my life, I have these goals that are daily, and then monthly, and then a yearly, but I don't go over that. I know some people teach you different, but my brain doesn't work like that. It shuts down if it's too much for me to think through. So if I could break everything down, it helps me to do little by little by little. So for me to become this woman today, what really changed that was all of the things that have got me to where I'm at now. I can't say it's just one thing because I'm still changing and evolving every day to be more of this woman. And this woman, there's this saying, it's oponopono. It's
Mhm.
Hawaiian.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm gonna paraphrase, but like, if you think you know, you don't know. And when you don't know, it's when you know, when you just feel. And so that's why I don't want to say something and they're like, oh, that's the thing. But I know the thing that if I reverse engineer it, that pain, my favorite thing that I speak on is called PPP. It's cute because everybody got their PPP money, but
Yeah.
but it's like turn your pain into purpose and your purpose into profit. I
Mm.
don't want to do that, but everybody profiting off your pain. Everybody wanted to hear my story. I fundraised 800,000 for this organization, 1.3 million for this organization, and I'm like, I can't pay my rent,
Yeah.
but I just raised them $1 million in front of all these people, and they're doing a live auction, so I hear the numbers, but
Yeah.
I shared my story, and they're opening up, but none of that money comes to me. I'm still struggling. So how do I take my pain and turn it into my purpose and then turn that purpose into profit? I don't want to just turn my pain to profit. I don't want to just use purpose for profit because without pain, you don't have nothing to make you move. Pain make you move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here in this chair and it's cool, I'm good. But if there's thumbtacks on this chair, I'm gonna hop up.
Right.
So you want to be comfortable? Cool, conform. But if you want to be somebody, you got to use your pain and let that catapult you forward. So that's what I would say about that. And then the second thing, when you were talking about what, like you say, a lot of times people are like, well, what drives you? What's that thing that's making you go? Honestly, I knew it was my purpose when I just got reminded again when I was at the conference with you guys, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
constant reminder when I got the text messages from the woman that said, thank you for making me cry in a good way. When the other one said, I'm not trying to knock everybody on the panel, but it's something about you. You just stand out. And every time you talked, it was like, I just wanted to go on stage and just be right in your face. And it's like another one was like, man, you got to do this for women. Please come back to California. And then it's the organizers of the event being like, man, we got to do a re-amplified women's. Like,
Yeah.
when you can show up in the room and change the temperature of the room by I didn't even do nothing but say a couple, I
Mm-hmm.
spoke 3 little times, less
Mm-hmm.
than 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that energy.
Yeah.
They will never forget how I made them feel. And they may not even remember nothing I said, but they're gonna remember how I moved them in the room. And that I can't explain that. It's called a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing that at least for me, one thing that I recognize, and again, you said it, it's your calling, right? I
Yeah.
always tell people, and then specifically for people that are entrepreneurs or want to get into the space of being entrepreneurs, I cannot say this enough. And I always tell people, if you got into becoming an entrepreneur for profits, I think you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
Eventually, yeah, you might see the money right now, whatever you're doing, you might see it. Eventually, that's gonna end up. It's gonna end. So
Yeah.
what I tell people is don't do entrepreneurship for profits. Do it
Yeah.
for purpose, because
Yeah.
when you do it for purpose, the profits will come, right? Eventually they'll come. And so that's one thing that I learned myself also at the beginning of being an entrepreneur. And I started doing things for just for the money. And I said, no, it's just not sustainable. And then I
Yeah.
started doing things for purpose, and I started doing it with this intention without even thinking about the money. And yet the money was coming, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I want to say to that is, a lot of people say, well, money is good or bad, whatever. No, money is a source that we can actually, like in your case, like
Yeah.
if I can start empowering people, and then I can utilize this as you're doing right now, you're creating
Yes.
homes for people that have been trafficked.
Yes.
And what is that? Your purpose is helping you get those profits to be able to do that.
Yes.
You're able to help more people, right?
Yes.
And some people don't see that. And so I think I want to really commend you for that, because that's huge. When I, we're talking about that, I'm like, wow, that's huge. That's amazing that you're doing that, for sure.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so now, obviously, besides doing that, besides also doing what you're doing, and I know you mentioned you wanted to run for as a politician too, and all these different things. You're a real estate
Yeah.
investor, you're a life coach. Like, how do you balance all of these things? Because you have a lot going on.
Oh
From real
yeah.
estate investing to being a
That's
businesswoman
my
to
favorite question.
yeah.
So I wish I had like my little organizer here. I'm organized. My
Mhm.
first job, do y'all know Barack Obama's first job was a community organizer?
Okay.
He organized before he did anything else, which got him to be the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So, being a community organizer, I had to organize things at high levels for state representatives, politicians, had to build coalitions, learn how to email, so I'm very organized. First thing, I have a balance of life. I have, like, let's draw a circle for anybody out there. You could do this right now. You could draw a circle like a piece of pie. And don't do what you want and what you think. Really take time to think about your life, think about your past week, and then draw your pieces of pie based on what you gave your time to. I guarantee you, 75% of people's time has been on social media, on other people's stages, on other people's platforms, on other people's dreams, watching television, telling a lie to your vision, listening to radio in car versus a podcast or a book. So when I broke down my life, remember, break it down, you could break through it. I was able to see everything that I needed. So one, I have morality, meaning I have a set principle of morals. I don't break that. I don't care if it's the BET Awards, the Grammys. If I got something and I committed to you, I'm committed. So I have morality, which means I have a certain character about myself. I have discipline, which means I break it down. I write it out every day. I never start my day until I finish it, meaning I write a plan to be able to do what I have to do the next day. I knew today everything I needed to do. And because I went over my day yesterday, I was able to ask you, hey, can we go a little earlier so I can make this fit right? So it's being prepared, because nothing ever just happens. You make it happen. Even if it's like a miracle, you did it. You call that to you from the universe, right? So the way I balance it, it's like a piece of circle, just goes around and round. So if there's a chop in the circle, or it's gonna be dingy, it's not gonna, but you want your life to be in flow like this, but you have to write it out, you have to plan it out, you have to make it happen. And then I put priority first. God, that's my source. Nothing comes with, not my children, not my job, not this part, nothing. So I prayed this morning, I worked out. Second one is me. I can't do nothing without physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. Working out balances that. So I worked out. Then 3, I take care of myself. I present myself in a way that make me feel good. Women, get up, put your makeup on, put some lip gloss on, get you a nice little t-shirt. You go to Goodwill if you ain't got money. Feel good about yourself. You're going to feel good about everything else, okay? And then 4, I don't do everything at one time. If this is my life and this is 1 and this is 85, the average woman lives to be 85 years old. This is where I start, right? This is how much life I've lived. I'm just 31. I got this much time to do all that stuff I want to do. I don't have to do everything at one time. I'm going on God's time, not nobody else. So if it's for me right now, it ain't for me right now. And then I say, last but not least, I got a lovely network of people that lift me up, support me, and help to balance me, because I'm never the smartest one or the richest one in the room. I put myself around people that have way more than me, but it always make me be uncomfortable, because I'm like, ugh. But when you're uncomfortable, you move. Right now I'm in a season. There's a book by Jim Rohn called The 4 Seasons. I would love for you guys to read that. And the next one is The 4 Agreements, which is how I kind of pull philosophy from. And that's how I do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And one thing that you mentioned that I want to emphasize again is that idea of, and Jim Brown talks about, is the average 5, right? And you were talking about, at the beginning, you're, you have had a group of people, now you had another group of people, right? It's that idea of who are your average 5. And one thing that I like about being in a room of people that perhaps are not the richest and the smartest, yet one thing that I like about that is that when you're in those rooms and you're in the right room, they're not they're really actually edifying you, they're helping you, they're not competing against you. And that's one beauty of that, when you can find that, as opposed to being in a group of people that maybe they're at the same level but they're competing with you. That to me is like, I don't need that, at least in my life, right? Because you need someone that's going to help you, edify you. You can create joint ventures, you can probably figure out how can we work together, or just give me some ideas, like help me out, kind of thing, right? And so that's huge. So if people wanted to connect with you, they want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
So basically, pardon me, where he was kind of going from that, because I just want to kind of close the story off with, like, because I know some people are like, what happened at the end? So after college, after I did all that stuff, the first step that I did, I got into wholesaling. And I started to understand that real estate was one of the 4 pillars of wealth. So I found a way to get wealth. Second thing I did was I created a not-for-profit with my partner, and we started to give back. Therefore, one, it does alleviate taxes, and you can give your money to your own cause versus giving it to Uncle Sam. And then the third thing was I found a way to constantly put my life in school. So I'm always learning. I have class today at 9. I'm trying to become a broker. So it's like, so those are the ways that I balance it out. And that's how my story ended. And that is how we keep it going. So the ways that you could connect with me, and this is a tip for everybody. Always use your name, because people are going to use your name in everything they do. YouTube, podcast, Instagram, but ShametriaGonzales.com. All of my websites are on there. All of my social medias are the same. I am putting together a small list of tour right now that I'm going to be going to different places based on all the events. And you can always find me on other people's stages. I'm always going to be booked and busy and going to talk and love on and support and mentor and encourage and inspire. If you're interested in Home for Grace, which is the housing community that we're building for women who've been trafficked, we already have a house for them. We already have, this is not something I want to do. We're doing this actively, but we're always looking to grow and develop and create more spaces, even franchisement, if you want to go in. And so if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. As far as life coaching go, that's something that I do. It is booked, so I'm not offering it right now, but it takes a lot for me. And I have 3 clients that are very high ticket, high paying, beautiful people. So I give all of my time and energy and love to them. But as far as speakers go, for people who want to utilize their voice and learn how to campaign and book corporate stages, I don't do nothing under $10,000 unless I know you. So I have a system of how I've learned to do that, and it's called Unleashed to Speak, because I've used my voice to save all those women. I use my voice to politic and change laws. I use my voice to inspire, encourage, and motivate. And I just want people to be able to do the same. But it don't just come because I just open my mouth. I'm strategic about it. And champions. So, if anybody out there feels like I need to be somewhere and I could serve their community, their population, their organization, please call me, let them know about me. And that's called a champion. And that's how I continue to do this work. So
I love it. I love it. My last question for you is for the people that are listening to us and watching us, if they're going through any kind of challenge, what will be one advice you can give them so they can start overcoming that challenge?
Oh, man. Trust the process and trust where you're at in that process, because a lot of people, they want to know something quick and nothing happens quick. But I want you to know that everything is happening for a reason, and it's just a season. So it may be money, it may be time, it may be if you're trafficked. Okay, now hold up now. I'm talking about professionals, entrepreneurs, people. If you're hurting and you're going through something, immediately open your mouth, share your story with anybody. So this is too prone. If you're a survivor of trafficking, if you're going through something, domestic abuse, sexual assault, something, open your mouth and share your story. Tell somebody, call me. I know nothing but resources. We may even have a resource for you. Share your story, because that is what got me out of my situation immediately. For entrepreneurs, trust the process. It's completely different. So I just want to make sure I tell that. Entrepreneurs, trust the process, know where you are, create a plan, and break it down. So if you're going through financial right now, look at that big boulder of debt, break it down, find one thing you could do a day to get out of it. Even if it's just getting out of your head to be able to think about a way to get out of it, it's still getting out. So if it's just meditation or the gym or something, trust the process, create a plan to get out of the process and to make another process, and then find somebody who's already done it and then ask for help. So opening your mouth, using your voice is always going to be the biggest thing, but also being okay with where you're at, because you can't get out of anything if you're in it. So know that it's just a process and it's a journey. You can get out because you're going through it. You're not in anything, because life is constantly changing. So it's kind of like this parable that we tell ourselves that something's wrong when really everything's right. It's just a moment.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. And, I got to tell you, I'm super, super excited for all those, that advice. So thank you again for being on the show. Really appreciate that. And definitely, you're definitely impacting the world. So again, thank you for being on the show today.
Yes. Thank you for having me. And whatever that thing is that made you wanted to connect with me and things like that and allow me to share my story, Without people like you, I wouldn't be able to make impact. So thank you for already being prepared to be able, somebody's going to be touched by this. I claim that already, and somebody needed to hear me. And that's why you did what you had to do and reached out to me with the ability that I could say no, but knowing that, it was something there. So thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks so much. And again, for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please share this podcast because somebody definitely needs to hear this message. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.